Okay, there we go. I thought the replay froze, and I'd just gotten done doing the countdown, and I was terrified that we weren't going to have a show. I was just sitting here, doing nothing. But now, we can do something, can't we? It's Day 9, Daily 665, Part 2. Where we are under the sea. Because everyone knows those orca whales are good at StarCraft 2, right? I was talking to this orca whale, and I was like, dude, what do you think about Crank's aggressive Protoss vs. Zerg? And he was just like, ooh, ooh. And I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. Look, normally when we talk about easy peasy builds, we talk about we talk about all-ins. 1 base all-ins, 2 base all-ins. Things that have an ending to them. But this is an opening that I like because it has some fun attacking to it. It has some nice defense to it. It's not tricky defense, like using only 1 gate to defend. And also, you just keep expanding. So it's like this giant momentum swing upward. It's literally just up. Up and away. Let's take a look at it. This is Kurenku up against Barcode, one of the greatest players in history. I think this is like Czech or someone. Czech. Oh my god, there is a price tag on the bottom of the mug. Oh my god, how much did this cost me? I don't know, it's just an IKEA UPC code. Okay. So Frost. Oops, the big maps. Now Frost is a large map, so we're going to do a nice economic thing versus our Zergy buddies. I'm not really doing complex map analysis because there's really no need to. The more complicated you make it, the more skill you have to back it up. And if you try to make it complicated and you don't have the skill to back it up, it's actually detrimental. And honestly, simple is probably better than complicated most of the time. So we see Crank doing this 1 pylon, 1 gate opening. Now, many folks have seen a Nexus first 4G opening, or they see gateway, gas, core, mothership core, and then an expand down here. What people tend not to see is something like gateway with no gas straight off to an expand. But this is a nice opening that allows you to get your Nexus up a little quicker. It's a little more economic, and you don't burn excess funds getting a forge and a cannon when you don't really need to. Because let's actually think about that forge cannon combo. Suppose for a moment that you are not getting your weapons attack upgrade for a while. You've invested 150 getting a forge, 150 minerals, then 150 on a cannon, and if your opponent doesn't go for a huge early attack, these 2 buildings have essentially been a $300 burn just for the feeling of security at the start. Now, often that's okay because you're making so much cash from your early Nexus play, but ideally you go Nexus first and you don't build a forge or a cannon at all, and then you only have defenses when he attacks. Here's a cool example of this. So Crank opts to get a 2nd pylon up right away. Crank is not even scouting in the appropriate position first, but he's still not going to do dumb things. He's not going to just throw down an expansion blindly. This is a pretty typical move that defends a 6 pool. You start the Zealot, and then you move the probe down, and here, if you see a 6 pool coming, you let the Zealot finish. But alas, there is no 6 pool. There is no pool, so the Nexus gets to go down. Cool! We're playing sexy. Now, up to this point, this is what I would call a thin defense. Quite thin, actually. We have no units. As thin as it gets. And soon enough, we're going to have 1 Zealot. Most new folk are terrified of thin defenses. That's why we see players get like 2 cannons blindly, just because 2 cannons feels good. It just feels nice, just it's not terrifying that much anymore. But here what I like about this is it's a clear timing. We start the Zealot, and if we don't see a 6 pool, then we expand. Now, here's where I have to concede to your superseding wisdom. Technically, a Zerg player could 6 pool, rally to the middle of the map with his 6 poollings, wait till he has 12 to 20 Zerglings, and then attack you. And you will lose. And if he does that, then he's just better than you, and that's okay. He was brave enough to go 6 pool, get those 6 lings, and save it till he had 20. And, you know, hats off to him. He's just a good player. Don't worry about it. I know it loses to that. That's fine. But against everyone else who's using both halves of their brain, they're going to 6 pool and rally straight into your main base. So this is a fantastic timing to start the Zealot and cancel it and get this base up. To make up for the lack of gas, to make up for the lost mining time, Crank throws down these 2 assimilators before the Zealot. And notice, hey, he arriveth at the Zergith's baseths and sees that not only is the pool not finished, but that there's plenty of time to get the pool up. Or excuse me, to get the Zealot up. To note, normally, if your opponent goes pool first, his Zerglings will finish at around 3:30. Normally, it will finish at around 3:30. So you can see how much free time you have to get the Zealot up. It's 3:30 to have them hatch from the eggs. Most of those Zerglings will be chasing this probe around, and if you see your probe not being chased, well, cool, you build a Zealot. In all other cases, we're just cutting every damn corner in the book. Still no Zealot getting produced. We have a pylon that has a 1 hex space there. And finally we build a Zealot as we're checking for thirds. How elegant. What a gorgeous, sexy, and elegant, eloquent elephant opening. So with the Cybernetics core done, great, Mothership core comes up. Our super early Nexus comes up. And then the next set of funds we spend will be going down on these gateways. What is nice about the fact that our Cybernetics core is... This Cybernetics core is faster than most of the early expand builds. So we're still going to have warp gate up in time to deal with most pain in the asses. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop right now and ask, what the hell have we seen? A lot of clever moves to get us up an early expand without burning cash on a forge and cannon. So we can then spend that money doing other awesome things. If you don't want to do an opening that thin, if you'd prefer to go Nexus, Forge, Cannon, Wall-Off, do that. That is a good thing to do. Now I want to move on to the second little moment I want to emphasize, which is what Crank is going to be doing coming up here. Crank is going to harass with Phoenixes in not a spectacular way at all. And everything else Crank is doing is going to be defensive. Chrono boosting on the probes. I mean, I know this probe is here at the back end of things, but really no complexity here. It's just some simple scouting. There's not going to be any cute pylon insanity. I mean, there's a stalker coming up just to help do a little bit of pressure. I don't even think that's necessary. This could be a sentry for all we care. And Crank just builds probes. Builds lots of probes, builds appropriate pylons in appropriate places, gets Phoenixes to do Phoenix-like things, such as kill air units and whatnot. One of the last things we get, and one of the hardest things to time properly, are these assimilators. But this is just an easy assimilator timing. We already got our Zealot. We already got our extra gateways. We already got our Stargate done. We already have a Phoenix coming up. After all that stuff's done, assimilator. Yeah. I'm actually going to hit Alt-F to change our colors a little bit. So we can make Crank bright green. So first and foremost, Crank just scouts all the edges that are nearby. This really isn't a difficult defense. What Crank's going to be doing in the meantime is just getting up a robo facility. So easy to do. Chrono boosting where? On just the probes. And a few on the Phoenixes, but not really, mainly the probes. And look at this very simple Phoenix scouting. He scouted all along this top edge. Actually, I'll pull here. He scouted all along this top edge and then came down. His second Phoenix scouted all the way down this bottom edge and then down. This Phoenix is just kind of doing something in between, kind of like a lazy Phoenix. But the important thing to note is that with all this movement, Crank is doing no rush. None at all. It's very easy with any aggressive component to be terrified of waiting. Actually, it's kind of the extremes, like, because your heart's pounding, it's racing, you're on the ladder, and if you lose, oh, it's permanently embalmed on your forehead, aka your ranking pagey thing. You get feelings and you're sweating, or maybe you're me and you're not doing anything and you're just sweating anyways because you're what you are. And in that moment of panic, one of two things happens. You either are too scared to attack and you just keep waiting and say, just another tank, and it never comes out. Or you're like, all right, my tank is just finished and I have 3 Marines. Let's do this. And you bolt out. With this, no need at all. All we need is to have 5 Phoenixes there quickly. We don't need the first Phoenixes to be there quickly. And a robo facility to follow up. When do you get the robo? Well, gee, man, when you can afford it. When do you get the forge? Well, gee, man, when you can afford it. Now, there's no proxy pylon. There's no big dramatic attack happening. In fact, Crank's just continuing to build probes. Well past 44. These Phoenixes are actually pretty fast. It's not important that you know that they're fast. I'll just let you know that they're fast. It won't improve your build to know they're fast. You'll just feel that it's quite good. And we just see 1 Zealot, 1 Stalker, 2 Sentries. Great. Now, why are we getting this Forge up at this particular time? Oh, I will note, Robo Bay comes out right when the Robo facility finishes. An Observer is a pretty normal thing to do. Where's it rallied? Well, gee, it looks like it's rallied somewhere. Yeah, somewhere at the Zerg's front. Cool. The reason we get these 3 gateways up so early is so we can take our units to go take a third. Look at this harassment, picking off whatever drones he can. There's just been a couple of drones lifted. I mean, not even that many kills. 3, 2, 1. And then these 3 gateways morph in some zealots, some sentries. Crank's not being suicidal, he's just going to leave 1 back. But yeah, great. While our Phoenix harassment's going down, we build the Nexus. Yeah. Great. While our Nexus is going down, we then get a Colossus. And there he is. That Forge that went down, we just use it. Literally all our buildings, we're just using them right now. Between our 2 pylons, wow. I bet you can guess what happens with these 2 pylons. If you said cannon, you're damn sharp. Or perhaps you are a piece of wire. And that's why you're so damn sharp. I mean, we're even getting range. We're literally using everything we can, and then with some leftover money, we get 2 gateways. We're not going to go up to a big, crazy gateway count. We're going to keep it kind of low. So great. It's an easy segment. It is easy, right? The opening right up to when the Phoenix was happening, it was kind of subtle and cutesy and clever, and then I said, whatever you want to do then to just get your expo up and to be safe, good. Start a Stargate. And then from here on, it was so straightforward. 3 gateways. Getting up to 5 Phoenixes, and when you can afford it, build a Robo. Then once the Robo's done, get some gateway units and a support bay for Colossus, and then expand. And while that's going on, harass. And if you don't quite have the APM or the focus, and you're wondering what you should cut, just don't Phoenix harass as much. Just stay and make sure you get your expansion up pretty quickly and your Colossus up pretty quickly. That's it. This is everything. This is all the things that you need to know. All right here, all pretty like. So, here comes the next phase, which is these gateways to wall off, but then very simply, remaining upgrades happen next. And there's 3 big remaining upgrades. Are you ready? Here's the 3 big ones. Blink, +2, and range. That's it. Get those started first. We're getting all the upgrades before the units. Look how few gateway units we have. 3 zealots, 3 sentries. I mean, the stalker's there, but it doesn't really matter right now. And just the defense. Look at these phoenixes, just way the hell far away from anything. Look here, I'm looking at the everyone cam. There's not even any nearby Zerg units, but man, still fine. Because the strength in this build is in its ability to get up this base. And to know that Mutalisks aren't that big of a threat because we have Phoenixes. Don't suicide the damn Phoenixes. By the way, what do you know, Joe? It's +2. What do you know? It's +2. What do you know? It's plus blink. Oh, if you only lift drones from geysers, you're probably doing something right. Chances are you're a genius. Colossus being boosted, Blink being boosted, +2 being boosted. This doesn't need to be boosted ever. You never need to chrono boost that range. And then Crank just builds a buttload of gateways. How many is a buttload? Somewhere between 8 and 10, depending on your macro abilities. Don't forget these ones over here. And you should have a lot of probes now, as Crank does. So let's see what happens. He just gets his upgrades. He has a lot of Colossus. Look at that. Look at him having his Colossus. He just builds stuff. He's getting some stalkers. When is he going to attack? When Blink is almost done and when +2 is almost done. He's scouting around and doing things. He's looking and he's just spying and gathering information and intel. And okay, now here he goes. Huge, terrifying, death-defying, big Zerg crying attack. And you know what Crank does while it's going on? Oh yeah. He's going to expand. Look at this. Look at that. Look at that. Not only look at the timing, but look at my timing. I moved there right before those went down. I'm good at this game. And then we see, this is kind of a nice thing, the Warp Prism popping out, but I mean, +3 attack is just, it's all forward looking. This attack can fail. This attack can do bad. Crank will be in pretty good shape. Yep. Notice Crank is out supplying his opponent, and the only thing that he's done is kill workers. In fact, he's killed 18 workers, but that's kind of to be expected when you've had 5 Phoenixes dancing around for ages. It's like each Phoenix getting the chance to lift 3 things and to kill it. Look at all the death, doom, destroying, and destruction, and the usefulness of these Phoenixes in particular said circumstance. It's nice. This base, nearing completion, should have some cannons there, but who needs cannons when you're literally about to win? I do like these force fields. Not to try to, like, bring the roaches in, but literally just to push everything back. All the things. So, I mean, you might want to try to nitpick and say things like, oh god, this needs defense, there needs to be gateways here, but this is a beautifully timed attack. So much so that Crank is about to win against an excellent player, Korean Barcode. Fortunately, this isn't Hearthstone, so we don't have to consider metagame, we only have to consider timings. And this is just a very brutal to deal with set of timings. You can play flexibly too. If you see your opponent going Spire, and you see some mutas popping out, you're going to have 3 bases, 5 gates, blink +2 range coming up. Instead of adding on a bunch of gateways, you can add on a bunch of stargates. You can add on a bunch of cannons. You can add on a bunch of wins to your BattleNets accounts. So that's going to end part 2, that great build. But what I want to note is how basic the structure is to this. It's just Phoenixes to harass while we expand with Colossus. Phoenixes to harass while we expand with Colossus. And then we go blink +2 range and push with a bunch of stalkers. It's very easy. It's very easy. If you want to see a more technical instance of this build order, watch Scarlet. Don't do that, because that's not the right one. If you want to see a more technical execution of this, watch SOS versus Jaedong on this map Frost from the WCS Global Finals at BlizzCon. You'll see SOS go for like Phoenix with Zealot Warp in harass and all that stuff, but then you're going to see the same thing come out of SOS. He just goes Colossus expand, blink +2 range, and then a boatload of gateways. So now that part 2 is done, we're going to go on to part 3 after this short break, where we'll look at a very short game that's going to make you feel a little naughty to have seen, and then we're going to take questions. My fingers are broken. I'll be back.